Welcome back, everybody, to the Defectives. We are without Darren, so I'm going to try to not butcher this intro. Darren's off this week. He's out in Colorado snowboarding with his dad. So I got my man Matt sitting in. Going to be my co-host and interview subject.
Nice. It sounds so serious when you say it like that.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I think that's it for house cleaning stuff. So let's jump right into it.
Cool.
I don't really know. How'd you get here?
You invited me.
Yes, I did. So I ran into you when I came back. I ran into you in about August.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Darren gave me your number, and I think I reached out. And you were like,
I met Darren at the Banya.
You met Darren at the Banya?
Yeah, Rogan was inoculating him. He was indoctrinating him into the Banya.
That's a shock the first time.
Yeah. Have you guys ever talked about the Banya on here?
No. Tell him about it.
So the Banya is a Russian bathhouse in Freehold. I won't give the exact name. I guess I could. It's called Baron Birch.
Yeah.
They have a couple saunas, a steam room, and a cold plunge. And it's a magical place, a rocket ship to spiritual enlightenment.
Dude, for real.
It's so good.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
When I walked in there.
Me either, because I was never a big sauna guy, but it's the combination of the atmosphere there, but the cold pool is really what puts it over the top.
Yes.
So I meet Darren, and Darren was talking to me about how he has a guy that he was working with who was having a hard time finding good recovery on the Jersey Shore. And I was like, well, that's weird, because I happen to know some good recovery on the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
I've been a part of it for a decade. And he put us in touch. You showed up, started coming to the meetings more and more regularly, and we became friends.
Here we are.
Here we are.
And we're going to the Banya Saturday.
We're going to the Banya, and I was going to move it up, but we're going to do it before.
Yeah. What time?
So I guess the 12th.
I work till 12.
We'll make it work.
Yeah.
Maybe you just come meet us there.
Okay.
If that works for you.
Yeah, I'll come right after.
We don't need to talk about that today.
Yeah.
But we'll work out the logistics. But now we're speaking at a rehab, and timing wise, it just makes more sense to just do the Banya before.
Go and
just
butter.
On fire. Butter.
I might fall asleep during it.
Oh my God.
Dude, I went from the sauna to the shower to the cold plunge and then into the big sauna.
Oh yeah.
Just buzzing.
Yep.
Just looked at Rogan and was crying laughing.
I couldn't believe the impact that it had on my overall health and wellness. It took all the anxiety and just melted away.
Yeah.
Complete present moment awareness. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hour meditation.
For real.
And I absolutely am obsessed with it. I go 3-4 times a week.
3-4 times a week?
Yeah, man. All or nothing, bud.
Yeah.
I'm born without breaks, bro.
Oh, man. I know. I looked at him while we were in there, and I was like, why do I worry about anything? Nothing matters.
Yep.
This is all bullshit.
Yep. We got to get you there more regularly, man.
I know. It's a little far. How far is it from your house?
A 30-minute drive, 25-30 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I can make it work.
It's not too bad. It's a little farther from here, but not much.
So how long ago did you meet Rogan?
So I met Rogan, funny, over 14 years ago.
14.
My daughter was a baby when I met Rogan. And I was, my sobriety date is not 14 years ago. So I'll start with that. But I got in touch with Rogan, and he was just a very special person. And I did not end up staying sober that time, the first time that Rogan sponsored me. But for whatever reason, he just never gave up on me, For the 4 years between when I met Rogan and when I actually got sober for good in 2012, Rogan would periodically always check up on me, always be there for me, call me and just say, how's it going? And for whatever reason, even when I was out there, when I was on a run, when I was doing some crazy stuff, Rogan was the only phone call I would always pick up, because he never gave me a really hard time. He just wanted to hear what was going on in my life and what insanity I was up to. And he just was always there for me and never gave up. So when I was finally ready to get sober in July 11th of 2012, Rogan was my first phone call.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Picked right up.
He picked right up and let me into the halfway house that he was running at the time, New Foundations House in Freehold, and let me in there with dirty piss because I was so afraid. I couldn't quit my job. I couldn't go to rehab.
Yeah.
That whole deal.
Yeah.
And he just gave me a shot. I mean, he held me accountable. They were tough on me at New Foundations, but he saved my life.
So how old were you then?
28.
You're 28. So you've been running for a few years.
Well, I've been running since I was 13.
13.
But I'd been in and out of rehab for 7 years.
Oh shit.
7 years of just hell.
That's painful.
It's a really tough place to be.
Yeah.
And people who listen, know what I'm talking about. It's not the getting high part that was hard. It was when I was sober.
Yeah.
I would sober up and I didn't have the drugs anymore. And I didn't have the solution anymore. And all the problems that had sort of like piled up on me were there, right there in my face, staring back at me. And the only thing that ever, was my solution was taken away. And people were like, oh, this is what you have to do for the rest of your life. You have to be like, this is how you have to live forever. And I'm like, no, thank you.
Dude, for real. I feel that because I was like, so I got to be sober and miserable for the rest of my life.
Yeah. So I'm going to just basically put a gun in my mouth eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way I can do this.
No chance.
This is the loneliest place in the world, bro.
I gave it some real college tries, though. Like a few periods of sobriety where I put together 3 months or 6 months a couple times. But how long can you hold your breath for, man? It would get to the point where once I knew what I was, which was, by the time I met Rogan at 24, I knew what I was. Once I knew what I was never convincing myself that it was going to work out or be different. But the pain of being me and being sober at the same time was so unbearable that I would just say, fuck it.
Yeah.
My mind would just snap. The mental obsession would return. I would just go out on a run because I was either going to go on a run or I was going to put a bullet in my head.
Yeah.
Those were the two options.
Yeah. And it's like, I hate when, I hate the misconception that it's just like weak-willed, you might, like you just don't want it enough or something,
Yeah. I mean, now that I've been sober for a while, I have to still remind myself to have compassion with people who come around and who don't do the assignments I give them, or who don't call me and aren't accountable. And it's like, well, that was me for a really long time. And I think the reason that causes me to feel a certain way, even though I never show it to them, is because it reminds me of who I was.
Absolutely.
And I hate that about me, because I heard about the steps when I was 21, and I waited 7 years to do the 12 steps, going to 12-step programs, burning my life to the ground over and over and over again. And eventually it was like, there was nothing left to try but to try the 12 steps.
Yeah. So what kept you away from like trying?
I think initially it was the God thing. Yeah.
Same.
That was something where I remember distinctly being in treatment, and they brought a meeting in and they put the lampshade up, and I started reading the steps, and I got to step 2. I was like, oh, that's what this is.
Right.
It's a cult.
Yeah, dude. Cult. Like, drink the Kool-Aid.
Yep.
Let's sit in a circle, sing Kumbaya.
And immediately, instantaneously, my mind snapped shut.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, nope, not doing that.
No chance.
So that was my first treatment center. I was 21. I was at Father Martin's Ashley in Havre de Grace, Maryland.
Dude.
Gorgeous treatment center. You went there?
No, I spoke at their alumni thing on Zoom.
How do you speak in an alumni thing on Zoom if you're not an alumni?
They were asking, what's her name down there? Asked us. Me and Darren both spoke there like back-to-back weeks.
Huh.
It was cool. They were really awesome.
I wrote them a letter.
That's crazy.
When I did my amends and I made myself available, but I definitely, if they do,
I'll give her a call.
Give me an introduction, because I would love to pay back.
For sure. Oh, yeah. I got it. Yeah.
So, but if you've never been there, it's like this gorgeous, absolutely breathtaking rehab. Started by a Catholic priest on bluffs overlooking the Chesapeake Bay. stained glass window churches right on the cliffs, light filtering in at the perfect angle, bald eagles when bald eagles were like still endangered, flying overhead,
Man.
I mean, and it was an incredible place to get sober. And so when I saw that lampshade, I was like, well, that's not the solution for me. But I thought I was a pretty smart guy. I was in college and I thought I had a pretty good brain in my head. Didn't realize how broken it was at that time.
Yeah.
And so they started doing a lot of stuff on triggers, and they did a lot of things with serotonin levels and neuroreceptors and the brain chemistry surrounding addiction. And so all these very smart therapists and psychiatrists with fancy letters after their names and doctorates were giving presentations. And I got a lot of self-knowledge. I was taking notes. I was really taking this shit seriously, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
I got the notebook right over there.
Yeah.
Same.
I meant it, And, 3 weeks in, my parents came, and it was family week. And, sat them down, had therapy sessions with them. Kumbaya. I'm crying. They're crying. I'm hugging them and I'm telling them, thank you for sticking by me and for giving me an opportunity to come here. I'm going to stay sober for the rest of my life. I figured out the answer. I have all the knowledge that I need.
Yeah.
Drinking and doing drugs again were completely unthinkable to me. I was completely convinced that I was going to stay sober for the rest of my life after that first trip to rehab. I was like, I'm going to be one of those first-time winners. And I meant it with every fiber of my being.
Yeah.
Hook me up to a lie detector test. I passed.
It's like my favorite. That's like my favorite saying, because I believe that to my core, that I now know enough, and I believe that, and I believe what everybody's telling me. It's not me telling me. Like, they're telling me that, play the tape out, shit like that. And I'm like, dude, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that consequential thinking part of my brain, right? That play the tape all the way through and think about the consequences. That part of my brain's broken. I'm impulsive to the core, So I'm not capable of taking the suggestions they're giving. And I do believe, I don't believe it's black and white, addict or not addict. There's a spectrum. But I believe that, for most people, that's their experience when it comes to, playing the tape all the way through.
The tape stops when I get to the part of the thing that I want, and then the tape stops playing.
Yeah. It wasn't the only time I went to Father Martin's, actually, though.
Okay.
So
how long did you last when you got out of there?
I got a girlfriend in that rehab.
I love you.
Got that girlfriend pregnant.
I love it.
Yeah. She ended up having a miscarriage. But by the time that happened, I was gone.
Yeah.
I was already.
So a couple months.
3 weeks.
Oh,
I made
same,
it 3 weeks
dude.
out of the rehab.
Same.
3 weeks. And it wasn't hard. The 3 weeks, I was like, I was making too big of a deal out of this. Right. This is easy. And then I got bored one Saturday night. I hadn't changed my phone number. My phone rings. My old buddies are going to the bar, and I'm like, you know what? I'll be the DD. Genius.
Such a nice guy.
Yeah, what the hell? I'm not going to not live the rest of my life. I'm 21. Of course I'm going to go hang out with my boys. Yeah. So we get into the bar. And this is back when you could smoke in bars. That's how old I am.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. This thick billowing smoke. And they had the shot girl going around. And I didn't even sit down in the bar. And I was doing a shot. Did not even sit down at the bar. And I'd already drank. No intention of drinking when I drove there. Everyone knew my deal. Told everyone, that I was going to be the DD that night. And before I even sat down at the bar that night, I had a drink in my hand.
Fucking crazy, isn't it?
Don't even know how it happened. So that's where playing the tape all the way through got me.
Yeah, it got me to the bar door. I don't even know I'm doing the things I'm doing.
So I'll skip around. I'm not going to do the story I'm speaking at a meeting. So next 2 years, I'm trying to figure out the right alchemy of drugs and alcohol that I can use successfully, because I'm definitely, by this point, not willing to be completely sober, because that's horrible. And I'm trying to figure out what drugs in what combination that I can possibly control to make my life somewhat tolerable.
Entered your chemist phase.
Yeah, my chemist phase. And for 2 years, I lived like that. And I was able to somehow get my degree from college. It took me 5 years, but I graduated from Monmouth University with a degree in finance. Not only did I get a degree, but I got an incredible job. One of my professors was a manager, had his own hedge fund. And I had impressed him and wormed my way in where he gave me a job opportunity. He gave me an internship that turned into a job opportunity when I graduated. But, you know, my addiction was so horrible by that point that I would show up without sleeping the night before for multiple shifts.
Yeah.
And then, you know, try and take a quick cat nap in the bathroom of a hedge fund. You know, like this isn't like, you know, this isn't like some stupid office job.
Right.
This is like high level
taking
quantum
naps.
mathematics where you're like doing Excel modeling on a spreadsheet. And I didn't know how to do any of it when I got the job. And, you know, I think I probably might have been smart enough to do the job if I had been sober and, you know, been in it. But I'll never know because I blew that job opportunity. By the midsummer, I was fired.
Yeah.
I got the job in May. I think within 6 weeks, I was terminated. They sent me a letter. I like called out of work. You know, you don't call out of work your first 2 months on the job at a hedge fund.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen, right? Most people who get that kind of job opportunity are putting in 80 hours a week.
Right.
You know, they're living there while they're trying to build their careers. And my grandma died 3 times that summer.
Yeah.
Grandma didn't really die.
No, yeah.
But there's only so many times where you could be like
right.
a family member has
Died.
passed away and I won't be at work today.
Right.
And I didn't tell you about it till like 7 a.m. the day I was supposed to be there. Oh,
it was
just happened
tragic.
suddenly tragic.
Yeah, it's tragic and sudden. Yeah.
Tragic. God rest Nana's soul. And so they let me go. And I'm 23 and I'm jobless. And I couldn't even function at jobs I'd always been good at. I worked in restaurants for a long time.
Sure.
And I'm not saying restaurant jobs are easy, but I knew how to do it. I mean, I'd been working in restaurants. I was 16. I was 23. So for 7 years, I'd always supported myself by waiting tables, bartending. And I was failing at a food running job that I got. Like where all you do is bring the food to the table and put it down.
Yeah,
and I was fucking that job up to the point where they were about to fire me. And my girlfriend left me. My parents had thrown me out of the house. I was living in a motel. And it was another bottom. And so what I did was when I got cornered, when the chips were down, and this is what I did the first time I went to treatment 2 years earlier, is I threw my hands up and I was like, okay, I need help. You know, send me to treatment.
Yep.
So I went back to Father Martin's Ashley a second time. Now, this might be why they didn't respond to my letter. The second trip to Father Martin's Ashley, I was no model student taking notes. I was an absolute terror in there. Very spiritually sick, very self-centered. The rules did not apply to me. You know, I snuck an iPad in, or iPod, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
iPads didn't exist when
right.
I was at this treatment center. So it was an iPod, and I would be listening to music. You weren't allowed to have iPods.
Right.
I went to the meetings and to the seminars that were convenient for my sleep schedule, you know, so I would not go. I had conjugal visits with my girlfriend when she would come to visit. And I was starting trouble and drama with other patients and was just an absolute maniac. And even though I was paying, you know, it's not like they threw me out because my insurance wasn't paying. We were paying cash for this rehab, this very expensive rehab. They asked me to leave after 3 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah. So they throw me out. And for the first time, I'm like in the middle of this field, this cornfield they had at Father Martin's Ashley. I go out there by myself and I like have a hard cry. Feeling real sorry for myself, not seeing my behavior at all or my part in it. I'm like, how could they do this to me?
Oh,
You know,
yeah, I love it.
it's just unbelievable, the level of sickness. But one good thing did come out of getting kicked out of that treatment center, because I was going to go to a bed. I was going to go to a halfway house for the first time, aftercare, because I'd only lasted 3 weeks the first time I went to treatment. So we were like, all right, let's do something different.
Let's put some handcuffs on this
Let's
kid.
do
please.
this.
Right.
I need some structure. So I'd gotten into a halfway house in Delray Beach, Florida.
Nice.
Healing Properties. And before I could move in there, the bed wasn't available because they weren't expecting me for another week. So I had to go back home for 3 days. So in those 3 days, that's when my daughter was conceived. So the beautiful, perfect little, 14-year-old angel that I have in my life today, the most important person in my world, was born out of my selfishness and disease. So it's crazy when I actually realized that's what happened.
Right.
That's the way that things actually went down. That's the timeline. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have Tess.
It's crazy.
Which is wild.
Wild.
Yeah. So I go down to Florida, and for
wild.
the first time, I'm doing things.
That's wild.
I know.
That's wild.
But I'm doing things when I'm in Florida. This was actually a really good treatment. So you hear some bad ones in Florida. This was a good one. So
I've only ever heard bad things from Florida.
There's some really good recovery down there. Lots of good recovery down there. I won't name names. I don't know. He's in the recovery field. A guy named Saul Kane literally was the first person. Him and my first sponsor, Christian, were huge in introducing me to the 12 steps. And I really, for the first time ever, put together a little bit of time. I had 6 months down there. Like I was
going through the steps.
Going through the steps, making the amends that I could.
Introduced to the idea of God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I fully accepted it, but I did the mechanics of the steps. I did a 4-step. I did a 5th step.
Okay.
I did 6 and 7, whatever that meant to me at that time,
So
as much as you can.
So we're getting out of the, or like we're getting into the, oh shit, I need like serious help here.
Yeah. And not only that, but for the first time, I wouldn't say I was cured, but I was like, okay, I can breathe and I'm sober. Right. I mean, it wasn't like I was white knuckling it. I was really starting to get a taste of freedom, getting some of those promises starting to come true in my life. And I was doing okay down there, probably in hindsight wasn't like,
yeah, you got some breathing room
on fire, but I was doing some things right. Not everything, but most things right. And, my fiance, as I told you, she's my fiance by this point. She's pregnant. My daughter's about to be born. And so my family and I, together with my fiance, decided it was time for me to move back to New Jersey, get a job with my college degree, and to be a father.
Life's coming together.
It's all working for me, right? I'm 23, going on 24. I was 24 by this point, by the time I moved back to New Jersey. And so I moved back to New Jersey, and I don't do any of the things that I was doing down in Florida. So I don't get a home group. I don't get a sponsor. I'm not praying and meditating. I'm not working with new guys. I'm not accountable. Literally nothing. I don't make any. I did think for the first week or two I made some amends because I had some in New Jersey that I couldn't make when I was living down in Florida. But that petered out, and within 3 weeks, that seems to be my number.
Same 3 weeks is my number too.
And I'm pointing in my head for all the people that are listening, but my mind starts going again. And I'm working at a restaurant while I'm waiting to start a job. With my degree, I'm working at this restaurant, and one of the guys that I'd worked with had missed work. He'd been out for a few days with kidney stones. And so he comes in with a rattler of painkillers and a big smile on his face, and I'm like, oh, boom. My mind instantly goes to getting high, right? I can't think of anything else, but I can't get this guy to sell me the painkillers because he actually needs them. He's in pain.
Yeah.
He's got kidney stones. But what I did was I got real inquisitive about the symptoms of kidney stones, and I had a brilliant idea. I said, I'm going to go to the ER, the urgent care, after work tonight, and I'm going to fake kidney stones. And my family can't give me a hard time if I get opiates prescribed by a doctor because I need them for a medical condition. And so I walk into the urgent care, and I put on an Academy Award-winning performance for these doctors and nurses.
Rolling.
Legs flailing in the air, writhing in pain, moaning, in agony. And they test me for kidney stones, which I did not realize that they could do. And I don't have kidney stones, shocker. But they're convinced there's something wrong with me, right? So they start running this battery of tests on me, and 1 hour passes, 2 hours pass, 3 hours pass.
Oh my God, just keeping up the act.
By this point, they call my parents and my 9-month pregnant fiance to my bedside. It's the due date of my daughter. It's the 4th of July, 2008. And they say, listen, we can't figure out what's going on with you, but we ran the test for appendicitis again, and it came back inconclusive. We're going through with an emergency appendectomy right now. Tonight. And at that point,
You're like, oh my God.
yeah, at that point, you would think, okay, I'm not going to get an organ removed to keep the charade going. But that thought didn't even cross my mind. The only thing I thought was, wow, I bet I get a really good script out of this. And so they call an ambulance to take me from the urgent care to the hospital. They call these doctors and nurses out of their bed in the middle of the night on the 4th of July. And they perform emergency surgery, and they remove my appendix that night. And so I guess when they took my appendix out, I don't guess, I know.
Yeah.
They saw that I had a perfectly healthy appendix, and they realized that I'd been dope fiending them the entire time.
Holy shit.
And so when I woke up the next day, they weren't so liberal with the morphine drip. In fact, there was no morphine drip. All I got was 5 milligram Percocets. I got one script for 40 of them. You an opiates guy?
Yeah.
So you know,
Yeah,
that's
nothing.
Tylenol.
Yeah, it's Tylenol.
Literally.
Yeah.
But
it's like
Tylenol
Skittles.
actually works better
Right.
than
It's-
5 milligram
Yeah,
Percocets.
it's like an Alka-Seltzer.
My copay for the ambulance ride, for the battery of tests that they ran on me, for the emergency surgery was $2,500. So I paid $2,500 for 45 milligram Percocets with no refills. And I got an organ removed.
Holy shit.
So 2 days later, July 6th, 2008, my daughter's born. The pills are gone, right? I'm just dealing with the pain from the arthroscopic or laparoscopic surgery. And it was not an easy delivery. She was a big girl. She was 9 pounds, 4 ounces.
Damn.
Big old head like me.
Yeah.
Big old head. But after a really long natural delivery, she's born, and I hear her cry for the first time. And I see her, and she is so perfect, Ryan. She has my toes. I mean, the kid looked just like me. The poor thing looked just like me, even as a newborn. And they put her in my arms, and the waterworks just start, and I am just over the top. I mean, you can't be more in love or more smitten than I was, right? And any parent who's been through that can attest. It's psychological. It's genetic. It's physiological response to having a child. And the love was so overwhelming and so instantaneous. And I'm bawling, and I'm looking down at this little perfect baby. And I promise her that I'm going to be the father that she deserves, right? That I'm going to be the man for her in her life, someone stable that she can rely upon. I promise her that I'm going to stay sober. And again, that whole lie detector analogy. You could have hooked me up to a lie detector test, and I would have passed with flying colors.
You can't mean it any deeper than that.
Could not mean it more than I meant it at that exact moment when I'm looking down in that little girl's eyes. And I, all of a sudden, had this idea that I could go home to get some stuff for us, at the hospital, and maybe catch a nap. And on the way home from the hospital to go grab a to-go bag and, some clothes that we didn't grab when we first went to the hospital because, the birth came on kind of suddenly, I stopped at the liquor store. I didn't even make it 2 hours from making that promise to when I'm drinking. Bailey's. I don't even like Bailey's.
Yeah, whatever.
For whatever reason, that's what I was in the mood for. But I'm drinking Bailey's. And for the first 4 years of that little girl's life, man, I was not keeping that promise. I was not the father that she deserved or that I promised that I would be at all. In and out of her life, back and forth to treatment, back and forth to Florida. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I tried the geographical cure. So I told you at the beginning, right? That I tried everything other than the 12 steps. And when I say everything, I mean everything. IOPs, inpatient treatments, halfway houses, detoxes, psychiatrists, psychologists, drugs like Subutex, Suboxone, Methadone, antidepressants, and I literally put anything in my system or tried any remedy that you could think of, and none of it worked. and it just kept getting worse. And by the time Tess was born, I really wanted to stop. Like, there's other times where, like, I was just getting sober to get people off my back or because the consequences were piling up. But, like, by the time I was 24, I really didn't want to keep doing this. Like, I really wanted to stop. I was tired of hurting people that cared about me.
Yeah.
I was tired of burning my life to the ground over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
When you were saying, like, waking up in the morning and being faced with your reality, like, that's the reality, right? That we're just letting everybody down around us and hurting everybody around us. And that is the worst, waking up to that.
Yeah. And the only thing that fixes that is more drugs.
Yep.
And that's the problem. But when you get to a place where the drugs aren't working, which I did multiple times, that's scary. Where you can't get high enough to blot out the intolerable situation that you find yourself in, right? Like, that's a really, really dark place to be. And when I finally reached out to Rogan at 28, and, you know, this was after many stints of sobriety, 6 months, 3 months, more treatment centers. When I finally reached out to Rogan at 28, I think for the first time, I wasn't so sure I was ever going to get sober. And that was the first time I ever had that thought. Every other time, it's like, I got this. No problem. Of course. This is easy.
Right.
That
I don't know is terrifying.
But, like, after, I don't know, 100 relapses, at least a couple dozen where I really, like, tried,
right,
and put together at least some time. To have that much failure over the course of 7 years, I was like, maybe I'm just one of those people that's going to spend the rest of my life doing this until I die.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt like a really dark place, but that was really actually a good place to be, because for the first time, I was willing, like, really willing, dude.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Scratching, clawing. I will do anything.
Yeah, like crying myself to sleep at night.
Yeah.
But like that level, that type of a bottom, that level of desperation.
Dead. You're basically dead.
Yeah, it's a spirit. You have to die.
Spiritually dead.
Well, the ego has to die.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing you don't realize, too, is I always thought I am my thinking mind, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's me. And if that dies, I die, right? And I still get wrapped up in that 10 years sober.
Yeah.
That still is like, oh, that's me. No, it's not. It's your thinking mind,
it's your
right?
Thinking mind. I just finished Way of the Peaceful Warrior. So, like, it's all I've been consuming.
Yeah.
It's just great book. Anybody out there?
I've never read that,
dude.
Give me the lowdown.
Right there. I'll just give it to you.
I didn't think I was going to be leaving here with homework assignments.
Passed down from Rogan. He actually, that was a funny story. Like, I was putzing through it, and he just made like a quick little comment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't give you book assignments anymore because you don't do them. And I was like, just read the rest of it in like a day. Just like something.
Oh,
like
he's
that.
always with the psychological games. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the rundown is this kid meets a guy in a gas station who is like this mystic, and he shows him the way of the peaceful warrior, man, and it's fucking beautiful. And there's so much in there. Honestly, like the first 40 pages, I couldn't get past. Like, I would read one paragraph and I would just sit with it. Cause
so dense.
It's so packed with everything. Just every deep thought like I've ever had just is like expounded upon in that book. Your thinking, the fears, like you are not what your brain tells you you are. You are not who you think you are. This reality is not what you think it is. It's all of that in a million different forms. And, you got to get to that gate in your mind that we think is like this narrow impossible gate that we got to find the key to, but it's really just been open the whole time. And it's like the power of awareness and being present and here, being now.
So you're the watcher now, or you are at least when you're spiritually tapped in.
When I'm spiritually tapped in, I've had it's been awesome to like watch myself go through this life, watch my reactions, watch my emotions, watch the world around me and just take part in it and find joy in the smallest things.
So yeah, when I first realized what the ego really is, right? When I first had that revelation, it was a cosmic shift, right? But I had an adversarial relationship. Like it was almost like my thinking mind was my enemy.
Yeah,
it's easy to make it your enemy because it's filled with all these negative thoughts and thought patterns. And the way my mind talked to me, it was easy to make it my enemy. But I think over time, you realize that make it your friend. You're like, oh, bud, take it easy on yourself. The watcher can say, almost like from that perspective, like,
that's funny.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah. Look at you go.
Why are you trying to hurt me so much?
And so it's, it doesn't have to be this like, your thinking mind is the enemy. It just is what it is, and its default setting is negative. And
is that because of fear?
Fear, sure. Self-centered fear.
Yeah.
And you can't, and the crazy part is you can't think your way out of it. You have to act your way out of it, right? You got to meditate.
Yeah,
you got to go help people.
Yeah. Well, and you just want to think harder.
Sure.
Let me think my way out of here.
Yeah.
That don't work. You just think yourself into this rat hole.
Yep. So it's just, it's constantly evolving and changing and growing. And, sobriety is a trip, it really is. My whole thing I always say, and anyone who's heard me at meetings knows, it's not this linear trajectory from when I got sober, July 11, 2012 until today, where I'm on the rocket ship towards enlightenment. It's more ups and downs, like the stock market, maybe.
Yeah.
Over the last 10 years, stock market's up. Shocker, right?
Right.
But it didn't like go from 0 to 100, right?
Yeah. So when did you get to the point where like, so I've also found the God thing just so objectionable. Like I was just, no, not happening. Not me, not that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the pain that just pushed you to the point of like, fuck it, I'll believe whatever you tell me?
Circumstances, right? Drugs and alcohol definitely got me to a place where I was willing to at least do the steps. When I got sober this time, I was like, I'm doing the steps. No matter what, I'm doing the steps to completion this time. And along the way, doing the steps to completion, it wasn't like this overwhelming, like, burning bush type moment like you had, It was like the gradual educational variety. And I think for me, the greatest gift that Rogan, my sponsor and your sponsor, ever gave me was that he helped me to embrace the mystery of it all, right? I always had this, I'm type A.
Yeah.
So you've been to my home.
A little bit.
My refrigerator is organized. Everything in my life is like that.
The cookies are stacked.
The cookies are stacked. It's true.
In a circle. Then they're perfect. Cookie jar like this, cookie stacked perfectly. I've never seen anything like it. It's impressive.
So I have that aspect to my personality. And so I wanted to be able to say, like, this is God, right? Have a little box and a concise, clear definition of what my higher power was. And Rogan kept referring to it as the Great Pumpkin from Charlie Brown. And I never really grilled him on that or took it any farther. But then one time we were having one of our talks, and he's like, it's a mystery, babe. That's what faith is. If anyone knew exactly what God was, then there wouldn't be faith, right?
Yeah, there'd be no need for it.
So embracing the mystery, and I still, I think I have a general idea of what my higher power is, but I don't try and put it in any box where I can define it and say that's God. I have a loose definition of what I think that it is. And really, it's just about conscious contact in 11 with that higher power I choose to call God. And then it's about doing the rest of the steps and applying spiritual principles in my life. And not just in the areas where it's convenient.
Yeah, it's
That's
easy.
the hard. Easy to apply God at the meeting,
Easy to apply when things are going well.
That's true. That's true. But even then, are you really bringing God into it, or are you taking credit for the things that are going well?
Yeah.
Look at me. There's ego, there's pride in that. I'm crushing it at work, killing it at work. Or man, like this relationship, look how hot this chick is and she's attracted to, there's so many places where it can seem like things are going well and you're bringing God into it, but really you're not.
Right.
And honestly, I think the hardest time to bring God into it is in areas where things are kind of going well. And I haven't, and it's sort of easy to just kind of put it on autopilot or continue to try and control that area, or I've got this, God, we're doing great over here.
Yeah. I'll just be cruising along and be like, oh shit, by the way, what's up?
So how do you bring God into areas that on the outside are doing all right? I'm still trying to figure out that answer, man.
Yeah, well, if you could figure it out, like I wanted it all figured out right now. Because once I had that, like basically when I look back on it, like that big, powerful moment, I just went from not believing to holy shit, I know.
Do you ever talk about that big, powerful moment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've talked about it on here. I think I've shared the full version on here.
Okay.
I
always like to hear those stories because mine is like 100 little things like that.
Yeah, those are awesome, dude. Like I have those too, and like those are just they're the same thing. This one was like the big one, and I don't mean to like, no big deal. It was the fucking coolest shit that's ever happened to me. It's the most powerful, most real thing that's ever happened to me. Most real thing that's ever happened to me. I've never experienced anything more true than that. If that makes sense.
Of course.
Yep. It was all truth. But I had no idea what to do with that or how to bring that into my life or how to, so like as far as the bringing that power into every aspect of my life, I knew what it felt like and I knew the experience I had, but I had no idea what that meant. I mean, I drank after that.
Yeah.
I drank 2 months after that. I had no idea what to do with that. It's like, holy shit, everything's amazing and I'm cured.
I think that because your clean mountaintop moment like Bill Wilson had wasn't paired with the revelation, like, oh shit, I should go help other people. I think if you would have had those two things coincide.
There was thought of like, I want everybody on earth to fucking know this. But my living, I felt invincible. And I felt like I could do whatever I want. It went straight to fucking ego because I had that moment.
Oh.
Right to ego. I had the moment.
You were the chosen one.
Fuck yeah. Fuck, and it's like, it's embarrassing to say that because I've never really thought about it until now. But yeah, I mean, that just went straight to ego and I was just like, boom, I can do whatever I want. I'm untouchable. And then, 2 months later, I'm sitting in a fucking rehab parking lot. Just me. With a Gatorade bottle full of vodka.
How long was that last run?
They got shorter and shorter, so the last 4 runs were a week long.
Okay.
Because I'll black out for a week. Well, it was, I say that, but it would be wake up to my reality, which I have no recollection of, and then drink a bottle of vodka, immediately pass out, wake up, do the same thing. So it was like legit. I wasn't awake. I have no recollection of the last week.
I was never a daily drinker. I was always a blackout drinker.
Yeah,
almost every time I drank, it was the blackout. But I would wake up the next day, and be like, oof.
Oh, right back to it. Same.
Yeah, but I couldn't go right back to it. I prefer drugs. I just do.
I did too. I
don't know if this is an AA podcast.
No.
Okay.
It's not. No, I preferred oxys.
Yeah.
No, you can talk about whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I preferred oxys over drinking.
It's all symptoms of the same shit anyway.
Yeah,
So.
all drugs are. Yeah. Yeah, I preferred oxys over drinking, and then, when I kicked those, it was fucking terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a week. I felt like shit.
You cold kicked.
Yeah.
You're a better man than me. I never
cold
made it past
alcohol,
day 3.
bro.
Day 3. That's dangerous to detox off.
I had a seizure.
Yeah.
I had a seizure. I almost fucking died in the living room down there.
Oh my God.
We talk about God, bro. My brother and his nurse girlfriend were there.
And
And
she
my-
knew what was going on? She knew you were...
To call the cops. I mean, I don't. Yeah, call the ambulance, and she put me on my side and shit. And dude, it's crazy. And then I left the hospital before the brain scan, and I was drunk 3 weeks later. I'm good. Fucking 2 Ativan coming out of both arms, 2 IVs hooked up, fucking dying.
Wow.
3
And
days
how old
later.
were you?
This was
How old were you?
31.
31.
31.
Yeah.
Yeah, 31.
Last November then, right?
So it was March of 21.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Last
When did you
November, I
super-
got sober.
You
Yeah.
were sober. You got sober by November then.
Yeah, that was the. Yeah, I was sober by November. I packed that motherfucker out, boy. Like, March to November, bro, was so much. It was like, so I went through like my 20s with really no consequences.
Yeah.
Like, there were no big consequences. I was crushing it at work.
Yeah. Progressive.
Yeah, I was getting on paper, like, yeah, on paper, you know, my life was going like this as my drinking was going like this. And then, I mean, basically like August 2020, shit hit the fan, and then my life was fucked by August of 21.
I don't even remember my 20s, dude.
Same.
Like, legitimately, very spotty recollection. Entire years are gone.
Yeah.
Gone. Like, not there.
If I didn't have the pictures in my phone,
Mm-hmm.
or whenever my, brothers or friends or whatever bring something up,
Mm-hmm.
at the very least, it takes me quite a while to remember what they're talking about, if I remember at all.
Yeah, I got one brother who's got a mind like a steel trap. He remembers everything.
Oh, that's devastating for you.
Everything. Oh, it's the worst. Because he'll bring up entire, weeks, months, years, and there's nothing there.
Yeah, I do know.
No regrets, because everything got me where I am now.
Yeah, it was all necessary.
That's the one thing that's great about the steps. Like, if you
For
really
real.
do 4 through 9, you do not live in regret and shame and guilt about the past.
How could
Ever
you?
again. Ever again. There's no reason to. Like, when I lay my head down on my pillow at night, I will admit sometimes I'm experiencing some anxiety or fear of the future, or stressed out about what's happening in that present day, right? And we have solutions for that. But I never, since I got current and made all of my amends, lay my head down on my pillow at night and relive with the same level of horror the stuff that happened in my past. It's gone. What a gift. What a gift that is.
That alone is a miracle, dude. Because I couldn't go like I couldn't go a second in the morning waking up right without that horror, or going to sleep. Forget about it. The anxiety that tore through my body,
Oh my God.
bro. I felt like I was having a heart attack every night.
Yep.
I couldn't breathe, sweating it out, just dying.
Yep.
And I sleep like a fucking baby now, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's wild.
That was like that was one of the main things that hooked me was sleep.
Sleep and shedding. if you're an opiate addict.
Oh my God.
if you're
dude.
an opiate addict, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Being able to like just have regular bowel movements is a
Fucking
little mini
blessing.
spiritual experience every day,
Oh my God. So you get sober.
Yeah.
And it's a fucking mess, right?
Oh yeah. I was my family thrown me out of the house. I didn't have custody of my child. I can only see her under supervision, supervised visits on weekends. The fiance was long gone. I was dead broke, tens of thousands of dollars in crippling debt, credit card debt. I had short-term debt to Indian, because on Indian reservations they had these predatory loans that they give out, where it's like payday loans basically, but they're at like annualized 5,000% annual interest, and they compound daily. So like if you borrow $500, next week you owe $1,000. 2 weeks you owe $2,000. So I was all wrapped up in all of that. I was about to lose another job. It wasn't even that great of a job. Yeah. I won't get into the details.
You need any dollars coming in.
And the locks had been changed at my family's house, and I was homeless. I don't like to think about being homeless. I had a car, so I guess I could live in my car. But I was homeless.
I actually feel kind of cheap saying, like, not cheap, fake saying I was homeless, because I was sleeping in my car.
Yeah.
Homeless.
It's not. I mean, I guess
didn't have a home.
Yeah, I didn't sleep under a bridge, so I can't relate to people who had that experience. But that was the next step.
Yeah.
So. That's the state that I call Rogan in. I'd never called Rogan or a rehab on a winning streak. I never called a rehab. I was like, listen, everything's going great in my life, but I got this opiate addiction. Yeah. Maybe I should try and get sober while things are still good.
Right.
Never, not once. Every time I did not go get help or seek help until the wheels had fallen off. And it was burned to the ground completely. So that's where we were at. And again, I'm telling you, I'm crying myself to sleep at night. They were very tough in Rogan's halfway house. I'll tell you, I don't know how appropriate it is for this, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. So I'm living in this halfway house. I've been there for like a week or two at this point. And I'm going to like 11 meetings a week. I'm working 6 days a week. I have my daughter on the weekends when I'm not working. I mean, I'm really like, my whole life is just recovery work and trying to be a father. And so one morning I'm just tired, and I decide I'm going to sleep in. I'm not going to go to the morning meeting at the clubhouse down the street. And Rogan and Brendan and Jimmy and the guys who own this halfway house, all with 20 plus years of sobriety, just hone in on me. They do some steel on steel, and they sit me down in the living room, and they just go around all truth, right? All hard truth, but it was not a pleasant experience. Steel on steel is like, really heavy spiritual consent, but just giving it to me, about what kind of father I am and how I've shown up in my life, and what kind of a scumbag I've been, and so I'm like literally just sitting there and just taking it, and I already told you I wasn't exactly feeling great about myself at this point. And so I had to get ready for work that day. So I get into the shower, and I lay down in the fetal position in this shower, and I have a hard cry. I mean, I'm like, woo, and writhing around, flailing on the ground of the shower. And it's like not for a little bit. It's like a good 15-minute hard cry, like a therapeutic cry. You ever have a hard cry where you're like, oh, that felt so good afterwards? God, so I had one of them. I go to work that day, and I come back that night, and we're doing this. We had nightly review every night. And I tell the guys about my experience, about the cry in the shower. And it gets revealed to me that every single guy, there's 8 men in this halfway house, all of them share the same bathroom. 8 men have been masturbating in that shower every day for the last 6 months.
You're fucking crying your
and
eyes
I literally was crying my eyes out and rolling around in everybody's kids that lived in this halfway house.
Oh no, dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's a tough one.
That's
a tough
that was
one.
That was hard. The look of stunned disbelief on my face, And then what? You got to get clean. You got to go back into that shower.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a tough one, bro.
That was rough.
That's a tough day.
So the bottom had a trap door.
Yeah. Yeah, you went way below the bottom there. Holy shit. That one dropped out of nowhere. That is not where I expected that to go. That's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, wild, right? So I'm 6 months into that halfway house, and I told you, I said I'm going to do the steps 100% this time. I'd done about half my amends, and some things had started to come back for me, and things were going pretty well, and I decided I was ready to move out of that halfway house. And so Rogan gets wind of this. My guardian angel, Well, I didn't know this at the time, but like I applied to move into other Oxford houses in other towns, because I was ready to step down from this, which is like a very strict environment, to have a little bit more freedom.
Was it like a PHP or was it like a...
Oxford House is like a true halfway house. Now,
Okay.
with New Foundations, it was like a 3/4 house. I mean,
Okay.
It was like there was way stricter rules, way more drug testing, and that's not why I told myself at the time. But I was like, anyway. All these people I thought were my friends. I'd known them for 6 months. I see them at the meetings. Like, we go out to dinner together. They wouldn't even give me an interview at their house. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a piece of shit. I can't even get an interview at an Oxford house. I'm like really in it. I'm total insecurity and fear. And I'm like, wow, this is like a new low. And I find out that Rogan had called all of the halfway houses behind my back and sabotaged my interview. He said, if you even interview him, you're dead to me. And all these people, Rogan's Rogan, got a little bit of pull in this area,
A little bit.
a little bit.
Tiny bit.
And so they were like, nah, man, bed's full. Nah, man, we're not doing interviews tonight,
Yep.
And so, but I think that saved my life. So I ended up staying at New Foundations. I became house manager, top of my resume,
I love it. Yeah.
house manager.
Put it right up there.
And
Hedge fund napper, halfway, 3/4 house manager.
voluntary emergency surgery
Oh my God,
getter.
dude. What a fucking...
And so I ended up being the house manager there, and I stayed for 14 months. And I truly believe that period of time, that grace, being accountable, being in a structured environment, and then not moving out of there on my own, moving in with other sober guys, really is the reason I was able to achieve long-term sobriety now. Because you have to relearn how to live. It's not just about getting sober. It's like completely changing an entire belief system and structure. The entire way you've lived your entire life has to change. And that doesn't happen in an instant.
No.
It takes time.
And pain.
And pain. And you really, you have to rewire your brain. Really. And I don't like to tell newcomers this sometimes. It gets better, right? 3 months, 6 months, especially if you're doing the work, but it really does take a couple of years of like doing this for like the reward center in your brain to rewire for your natural levels of serotonin and dopamine to go back to normal, and to be like, oh my God, this is where it's at. Complete comfort in your own skin. That's impossible.
I think it's so important to have like experiences early, right?
Yeah.
To set the hooks. Because if it was just like, if I didn't have those experiences through Organic Steps, making the amends, right? Finding out, doing self-reflection, meditating, the prayer, the helping, being of service to other people, I'm gone. Because it is just chaos, dude. Like, and my brain was just straight fucking chaos.
But yeah, it talks in the book too, though, about spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. So spiritual progress would mean every year is getting better than the last. And my experience is when I'm doing the work, when I'm living in 10, 11, and 12, when I'm accountable to my sponsor, when I'm carrying the message, when I'm praying and meditating, every year is better than the last, regardless of life circumstances. And I've had incredible things happen in my life and all these amazing gifts. And I'm the most mentally and spiritually healthy I've ever been in my entire life. And I said the same thing last year.
Yeah.
And I'm better than I was last year. I said the same thing year before that.
That's
And it's pretty awesome, man.
So what did it look like when I'm sure it was an absolute journey to get, Tess is
14.
Tess is 14, dude.
Yeah, man.
That's a journey, right? Because you didn't have custody of her.
No, so it was weekends at my parents' house under supervision. And that had its challenges too, because there was a lot of pain there. My parents, I put them through a lot, man. Remember there was one night where Tess was sick. She would sleep in my bed. She was like 4 or 5 years old. She was 4 years old at this point, and she would snuggle with me when I had her, and she was coughing all night, and I couldn't get her down. And so finally, like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I was like, all right, I'm going to go get her some cough medicine. So I go downstairs and I'm rummaging through the medicine cabinet. My father wakes up. He sees me rummaging through the medicine cabinet, And instantly, he's like,
What?
goes through the roof. Because, I mean, naturally, every other time, he would be right to assume that I was going in there for, you know,
Yeah.
to get high, to relapse. And so we had a screaming match, and he's like, I don't hear Tessa coughing. And I was like, motherfucker. Of course she stops coughing the 5 minutes we're having the screaming match. And I go to Rogan, and I was, you know, so indignant. How dare he?
Mm-hmm.
How dare he, you know, not believe me? How dare he come at me like that? Doesn't he know who I... And Rogan's like, you've destroyed this man's life.
I don't even know.
For 14 years, you've been destroying this man's life. And all of a sudden, you put together 6 months, and he's supposed to trust you, and all that trauma is supposed to just go away because you stop being a piece of shit for 6 months? Come on, Matt. It's like, wow. You know? And that's what I love about Rogan, man. He helps. He's just instantly, it's, well, you're looking at this all wrong. You know? It's not about, you know, changing the circumstance. It's about changing your perspective.
Yep.
That's what this whole thing is about.
Disease of perception, man.
Yep.
The way I see the world is fucked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing it pretty fucked in some areas of my life right now, and I know that.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing some new truths that
So, give me some examples. This doesn't have to all be about me. Let me ask you some questions.
You can ask me whatever you want. Well, the biggest thing was in my relationships. And I saw some truths about myself in relationships that really made me like sick to my stomach, quite frankly, and how selfish I have been in every single relationship I've ever been in.
Romantic?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, carry them right over to every, you know, friends, family, sure, but mainly romantic.
Yeah.
That I couldn't figure out for the longest time. I couldn't figure out what the problem was. I knew it was me. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how I was acting. I didn't know, you know, the level of really how sick I am. Because I would try to just, I'm not that bad. This isn't that bad, and here's the reason behind it, right?
Yeah.
It's been eye-opening to say the least. And there's been, those truths are hard to face. So this is right. So this is the part of sobriety that I never imagined. I thought it was just like, get sober, everything's good. You know?
Yeah, your only problem was that you drank.
Yeah, right? So, like, obviously, no, it's so much more than that. But, like, I thought that if you take that away, baseline, I'm pretty good.
Yep.
It's like, no, baseline, I'm fucking terrible. Terrible, right?
Yeah.
And if you take away the alcohol, everything kind of gets fucking worse and louder. So when you took away the alcohol, I made a shitload of mistakes in my first year of sobriety. I heard a bunch of people. And I saw a bunch of that. And, you know, that pain, that's what became necessary for me to see it as objectionable, but really like fucking despicable. I wanted to puke all over my shoes. I got physically sick for 3 days when I saw it. No. 3 separate times back to back. I got the flu, I got strep throat, and I got COVID within 6 weeks.
Wow.
And I truly believe that was just coming out of my body.
Yeah.
Because I was disgusted. And but it prompted a huge change.
You're doing something about it, man.
Which kicked off a series of changes.
I don't change things usually until I'm in enough pain, you know?
Yeah.
And the pain threshold goes down, you know, as I've been sober for longer, but I won't change something unless I'm in enough pain.
No, I have to be in, and like that's what pisses me off is the amount of like disgusting violent pain I have to be in for me to be like, okay, this isn't working. Like I don't want to have to go through that much pain, man. It's like, that sucks. I just want to be like, okay, yes, I see that, and let's change that.
If change was easy, everybody would do it, though.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it really is hard. Once you're an adult, most people don't change. And that's why I have friends that talk to me about relationships. I don't know why, because I suck at them.
Yeah.
But they talk to me about relationships, and they're like, God, if she'd be great. I just want to fix this. And I was like, people don't change. So you need to love them and accept them for who they are, or don't if you can't, But if your idea is once I fix them, then they'll be perfect. Well, that's not going to happen, right? We change because we're forced by circumstance to change. And then we have these clear-cut directions on how to bring about that change that we have to continuously, carry into every area of our life. And it's hard. Working the steps is simple, but it's not easy, man.
No, but we have the added benefit of having the loaded gun to our head.
But yeah, we only change because we have to. Change or die.
Change or die.
Yeah.
Which is how this whole thing gets viewed as a blessing.
Yeah.
Right? Like this alcoholism, this addiction that would destroy our lives in so many ways winds up saving our life.
Oh, not only saving your life, but the quality of life you have. I mean, how many people do you know now who have a normal relationship with alcohol and drugs, but they're sleepwalking through their lives?
So many.
Literally, completely spiritually asleep, just getting by. I'll be happy when I have the house. I'll be happy when I, get the wife. I'll be happy when I have X amount of dollars in my bank account. I'll be happy when I retire. It's always this thing in the future that, that fallacy, I'll be happy when really it's all about being in the present moment now and enjoying the journey. And I would never have found this. I would never have found God. I would never have found, this spiritual practices that I have if it wasn't circumstances forcing me to do it. And I have an amazing life. It's not the stuff on the outside. I mean, I have true content, and I'm truly content and I'm happy. Truly.
Dude, I know.
My dad, the one I had so many issues with, the one that I have so much baggage there, our relationship, it's been a journey, but it's really good right now. And I remember he said something to me last year that was like the most meaningful thing anyone's ever said to me about my sobriety. Because people are like, oh, you're different now. But he told me, he said, you got better when you started living a life where you sought purpose and meaning instead of fun and happiness. And sometimes having a meaningful life, having a purpose-driven life doesn't look like a lot of fun on the outside. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of things, that you have to do. But that's where all of the contentment that I feel inside, the peace and the serenity that I have, is because I have things in my life. I'm an amazing father today. I'm an amazing businessman. I have, so many areas of my life where I excel and things that I do that have meaning and purpose. I carry this message into rehabs, multiple times every month. I, start meetings. I sponsor people, I really am doing things, that are more than just about me getting mine, right?
It's fucking so sick.
Yeah, man. That's what the whole thing is about.
It is. And it's right there in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Had no idea it was right there in front of me the entire time. I'm good.
Yeah, me too, man.
You good?
This was awesome. Thanks for having me on.
You'll be back on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thanks for being my friend, man.
Dude, thanks for being my friend, bro.
Yeah.
I can't wait for Saturday.
Yeah, we're doing it, dude.
It's going to be awesome. Thank you, everybody. Love yous.